to forecast, and they use these technical and creative skills that I have to say results, and they were not the work. Firms, I said, we spoke for a while. Then I went and worked this research type company, which was fantastic. Gave me insight through research. So we worked on projects that is called Proud Productions. And we worked on projects like the NAB Bank and Hoyt Cinemas, and doing research and walking into these businesses and talking to everyone to understand the business from inside out. For the NAB, we would build what we would call theatre sets. So there were these mock-up stages that we would fly in all the executives from around Australia to walk through the banks that we had designed. So it was all about prototyping and testing ideas prior to rolling them out. It was fantastic, but it wasn't a very viable business because it was competing with architecture and it had this all wonderful theoretical stuff. So then I went and worked at this other firm called Cox and Ramsey, which I nicknamed Ramps or Us, because all we did was ramps for disabled access for these very was a part of code. So I was having this fantastic, it was being highly creative, and then understanding bricks and detailing and handrails and how much they have to curve and all this kind of stuff, which was great. And then was doing visualization. I always had this fascination with technology. Out of my life, my teenage years, I grew up on a Greek island and we barely had televisions. I think when I came to Australia, I was like, oh, this is, look at this, computers, rendering and all of that. And then accidentally started the company with my business partner. So we would work creatively on projects, design projects. So she would do all the creative and I would execute in real time, drawing things, modeling things, and it was a really good balance. And then just started doing one job after another. And really what the distinction for us as a business, which we still hold to this day, was we just did what we did in the real world, in the digital world. So the preoccupation with technology, even though I love technology, we never spoke about the technology, we never spoke about the tools, we never spoke about the render farm, about the hardware we used. We would just look at each project and go, how do we execute a beautiful, amazing result using the skill sets that we've learned in the real world, working with photographers and architects and interior designers to realize that. So it was quite an organic and accidental journey, which I love that journey and I'm really proud of it. But nothing was really well thought out apart from constantly looking at avenues and opportunities and how I could connect dots to form something that interests me.
Well, so they did that test.
Very yeah, so probably like these guys, I think he saying this and I'm journey to where I can now. So I studied fine arts, which I'm about 10 careers there, the visual arts. I did nationally and internationally, and that was we still do a bit of that. Split fun times that actually became interested in text and computer design through the friends of mine who started the approach to actually work project. Like a large project basically, and we worked at this thing, and he used his skills and sort of kind of got a bit of what he was doing, and got really quite into it, and I sort of started looking at his brands, things like that. You started to feel what about architecture and design, and I thought, I wouldn't mind kind of like studying more. This is something pretty interesting. So I'm actually thinking that I should go into the building design course just to kind of get my head around things a bit done. And then when I was there, I sort of learned a lot more about technology and how to actually create things with being online. So that's kind of how I got interested in this. And then what you sort of realize sometimes when you have kind of things from a very different angle is you do obviously have different perspective to how other people see things. So when I went out and kind of worked, I probably didn't read up the same sort of values that a lot of other people add into the career paths that they need to have. I was just doing things that seemed right. things that I could do. One of my friends, one of my industry friends actually gave us a really good advice, which I mean is probably still working today. And that's like when you're in this industry, don't can be it's not like you don't always find it. You don't want to necessarily do just the same thing that everybody else does, or do the things that you think you should do. Ideally, you can be more successful if you find the things that you can do that perhaps that people can't do. But you always need to do things that you enjoy. So if you find that there's something that's easier for you, but to very it might not necessarily be the first thing you want to do, right? That can often lead to doors opening for you, because when you're in a firm, you need to be valuable, and people have done it obviously being an accommodating to what you can bring to the course you just user as well. So, so that being said, following those sorts of principles, I went off to work for a small architecture firm, which I highly recommend, because you really do get to do a little bit of everything. That's a really good thing to do, especially coming into it, because you'll get to do things that it's hard, but more senior people would do. It's like in an office, and it's just sort of stay a bit more that how the sausage is made as a base. So I did that for a bit. I worked at a couple of screened small firms, and then I got towards a consultant. I got an opportunity to go and work for kind of like a fabricator, a metal fabricator, based kind of design. Build all sorts of fancy ducks and dents and barbecues and complex facades and things like that. They need someone who could roll and understand things putting, and that's all that's like they could never find anyone to work with them because all the architects wanted to be architects, and otherwise they're all kind of get that a code. So I went in charge there for a little bit. So I was kind of working industrial design learned a lot about how things are put together in work as well. This is like how to kind of draw patterns for all sorts of machines and things like that, because they didn't have anyone who could do it, so we just had to figure it out. I actually still do work for that company, but kind of thing. We had a relationship for about 10 years. We actually designed you sort of modular sort of barbecue system relatively recently to the side club. And then from that, I sort of moved back into architecture. I moved to an interior design firm at car design, and learned. I was sort of actually at that point I was trying to sort of perhaps be a little less technical and go back to what I saw. My true calling was, which was design. I sort of went back to sort of try and be design. And then, when you're in that role, and sort of, you've got the technical skills, kind of actually, make things happen, I suppose. And then you end up kind of realizing that, that's actually kind of what, the enjoyable and fun part of it, I suppose. And, and eventually I sort of realized that, this big thing that I've been into was actually a thing to get it into itself, and that would be valuable with that. And then after I was their interior design firm, I got approached by BIM, which is a BIM consultancy to construct challenge. So it's they're a bit like how would you describe it? It's a bit like it's like a temp agency for BIM managers. Yeah, essentially, you can't. It's just that my company's about to engage my speaking. That's Bill's gap if we don't have enough experience of what this company can extra people come in out to do some. So I went to work for this Sunny consultancy firm to the right, and then I just jumped ship recently to work with Plan Behind. He's now main client, and my former company is now my own. But I guess to try and
put some sort of set will make them sort of sensible of that. And it's or just publish it and then to give some advice on that. I think it's something I've found certainly the way to color really valuable just to kind of get at sort of weird power rate and scanning them. Always following where I enjoy it, but also kind of like not being curious and not being cautious about what I enjoy, like that guy must to work for, a different idiot or going to, work for when consultancy or something like that. Just what seems right, what feels right, what makes sense, and also what kind of broadens your experience. So yeah, some was mentioned that it was for that. Thanks very much.
We'll pass on Annalise. If you just want to mention the next question, we might actually just aim this one towards Costa for this question.
Yes, I'm Annalise. The basic primary studio of the line band the stage to architecture next year. They need to come today. And my question is, what does your day today and what you about?
Okay, so we have quite a structured calendar and approach. I only realized recently that we do what's described as calendar blocking. I think just to help with the chaos. One of the things that a lot of what we've set up into business, the lessons I've learned from other businesses that I was like, I never want to do that. So I'll never forget a William spoke, the director, Peter Williams, who I admire, incredible person. Every day there was a queue of people lined up with their drawings. So it's cool. They were holding their drawings to see Peter to get critiqued on the work. And sometimes they would be queuing for like an hour and Peter would go off to a meeting. And, it was this kind of thing. I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do it. So a lot of what we've done in the business is framing around that. So essentially, day to day, we walk in at 9:30 every day. We have an admin meeting. So that's me with the administrative stuff. And we have like a list of things that we go through. It's probably a 15-minute meeting. So things that may be, Clyde has said, or something has happened in the office, or an email that needs to be addressed. Veronica can't get a lot of emails. So it's all about managing that and not sitting behind our emails. So what are the small fires, big fires, what's going on financially? So it's a 15-minute meeting that happens like that. Then what we have is what we call a Q&A session, which is a 1 hour block where the team bring work to Veronica and I. So it's controlled. And we're looking at the work in various stages, either to help move it along, a lot of the time to stop it from moving from so even though we're trying to move it along, or just be like, well, I don't think that's ready. We need to look at this. Have we considered this perspective? Have we looked at this challenge? So that happens at an hour block. And then the afternoons are typically have client-facing meetings. So when we have a client reach out to us, the very normal thing in business is you will get an email and it says, we love your work. Can you please quote for this? And provide a response in a couple of days or something like that. What we do now in the business, we're 15 years old, is we will meet with the clients always, and that's to work out, are we actually going to add value? Some people that just what I would describe as tire kickers, it's a great expression I really love, but from the car showroom, so people just walking around asking questions or they're just trying to get 3 quotes. We want to work with people that value what we do and that we can see where our values align as a business. So that's a really big part of it. So my afternoons typically, 3 times a week, there'll be a few client-facing meetings like that. It's pretty, and then in between all that, there'll be other reviews of work or things like that, more ad hoc things that happen, and then presentations. So again, Veronica and I always present our work. Even though what we do is produce images, we will always present it. So we'll never just email it and say, here's the work, here's the image you asked for. We'll look at it from a project point of view and just milestones and presentations. It's very structured, very, very structured. A lot of that has come from, I think, creativity is such a wonderful thing, and it can be quite organic and sometimes chaotic. So we find having a structured approach allows us to be chaotic and organic in the edges, but then we have these milestones. So then there's always a lot of presentations back to quite large stakeholder groups where we involve everyone, to bringing the architect, interior designer, real estate agent, anyone that's involved on the project, and present back to them. So that's what.
We might actually circle back to this question. Might get to part B, because I know there's a few questions relating to career opportunities as well. So I think we've got Hajira first with this one.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Arthur, and I'm an either choose and runs in integrated landscapes. My question is, what doing for is in your field expect of new graduates?
And I might actually direct this to Calvin for this question.
Okay. Suppose the easy concern I got up with this thing. We never moved before anyone the statute, so everything. It's a red flag. If they do, how that's not that's not that is. Well, we're looking to be able to fold them into our workflows so not very open. I think that's also have standardized. So I'm taking this as an interior designer, by the way. I'm saying this has been a small step as interior designer. Yeah, always design is still very open to chemistry. They find you the same because you do. Sorry, I'm wrong because there's couple like people working with 40 years of that there. So it's the nature of a it's dark. You'd be good point. It's actually right. They're good on us with a reset and that ever step back. That's started a second that started a church. Part of my day, what I'd say is blocking means I will always be on LinkedIn reading articles as well. That's just the nature of just all of these. So having that yes. We definitely agree at Wardle. Different companies, the software will always heavily, you should have a private training, all that sets. And I think Colin was swinging towards it. Yeah, it is private, right? Yeah. When I first started, it was that the bathroom at 7 lunch first, they decided architects in the future, you like that. And then when I went to Deakin, there was still microstation. Minecraft doesn't exist anymore, cycling. So they definitely, in all ways, we see that had that's some people ahead of the person who's done those the different software. That's just the way it is. It's not always about how strong you are in software, but it was got that base helps you because you do need to remember their toolings. Then you get that drawer, you guard your MIH with the best of it. I think then that needs to go into a software. So if you can do that first, then it's limited to me on the bit. So having some web software basis is definitely out me. But and that 100% broken relevance to it's not as well, but we do see new people come in, they want to work long hours, show that it's all of that. Yeah, we almost break that's the culture of the industry, and you're a user entry with all that. It changed that's not about that. It's up when there your time one gauge and one. And also just people that do have an interest in nature that want to go to these things like this. Just need to like network and research skills towards an out beyond this industry. It's not being work. Listen to them very often. That's give that bit. Well, so couldn't that just it was to West fantastic. It's great to thanks, Kelly.
Megan, do you want to ask the next question to the
Hi, so my name's Megan, and I'm just a recent graduate from interior architecture. What further training made it into career options in your field?
Interesting one. It's always where the further training is nothing better than expanding. So getting yourself based in someone is because of the pure targeting learning experience is fantastic. But sort of based on experience, getting experience on slightly related fields, like let's say if you're an interior designer, for example, this thinking about industrial design or things to do with construction, or even things to do with engineering can very, really help you because it's one thing to kind of come up with a basic kind of like the sort of palette of materials and things like that. But actually, like the beauty in the various is very much to do with how those things add together. So having this thinking sort of more widely into that and fields can really, really help you. I think I was actually I did work for interior design. I actually remember that we typically not being close one, but I'm one of the like there from the really experienced interior designers and how much they care about construction and engineering. Like how things were going together. It's quite interesting, not very stereotypical. What is that? Mighty computer design. It's all about. So yeah, like anything that's kind of slightly related that you can kind of like make yourself unique or give yourself something strength skills, if that makes sense. And also good efforts. But that being said, when we talk about things like Revit and software, Revit might be around in 10 years. That's really about having those technical computer expertise in order to kind of be able to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's also I could explore such competitors.
Things that sort of and that's what we've got to do is having looking at the people that use the also and such by this that's just for creating with especially the things on so I think that you guys is incredible. I know a lot of interior science that really good ones too, and that background and the experience and kids but what do we do is on a lot of our furniture that's navigants things and have knowledge about all those bodies. That's a really exciting that we share. And another really great one would be they kept it me. One of the hardest things in interior design was to go and join me. When can't there you should really understand what it was. Go with what you can get some experience in that and make the flexibility, something to understand that the machines work, very fluctuate. It'll give you certain ideas about how you can so there's nothing better than going to then seek and make a little bit of crazy design and then you come up with that and then a little bit of so you sort of have an idea and they've had a disabled workshop.
Analyzing everything around you. I think there's a big one. We have a role in our studio called the modeler. In some visualization studios, there's a visualizer. They do everything, and we've really separated out. So the hardest role for us to employ for is the modeler, because the modeler is the builder. So I've spoken to architects, and they're like, "Can't you just get a student to do that?" I'm like, "No. This is like a builder. They're doing the tile set outs. They need to understand how things go together because that's what makes the image look realistic. It's the fundamental of step core, and it is by far the hardest role to hire for.
Saves the fate it's to send up.
So the sorry, like, and I said, what dates I'm going to go to? Surely they give you
Less in your life,
the rest like.
No, they're not going to know where full of us.
It's interesting. We need to know. We need to know, and that's part of the value that we add because you need to understand construction detailing. It's going back to all that. It's interesting hearing all this journey, but you need to understand it. Even what we're producing, like it's not going to leak or fall with that sort. There's no legal liability, but we need to understand how this stuff goes together in the real world. Shadow lines, brick set outs, like there's just so much furniture. We build the furniture digitally, so there's a specialist in the studio that digitally handcrafts and the furniture and the decorative items that go into this. And so this knowledge of construction and how things got it together and just analyzing the real world is.
I think that actually goes to that next question too about sorry, but just back on the thank you. we were to ask you maybe two each, what would you say would be the best knowledge and skills to have when you're starting out, I guess, from just graduating or finishing your studies?
You said it beautifully. I reckon we have one of our values is knowledge, and the pursuit of marginal gains and the growth mindset. That's for me when we're looking for team members, that's all we're looking at. So, and we look at that more. We now hire more in that area, like what we call it the generalist, and less now in the senior position. Sometimes when you're senior, you're just very set, like you make with Revit specialist or a 3D Max specialist, let's say in our area, but then you don't understand construction, how things go together, all these other aspects. So you're like a software specialist, but in our studio, because it's not very large, it doesn't take us far. So I think that growth mindset is the big one. And then the second one is to be, for us, would be to that broad understanding. I think we're all saying the same thing, but it's a growth mindset, but then also just to have a cross-section passion across everything that makes up design. And so that could be following blogs or reading articles or going to talks and building some furniture, making, designing a kitchen for your friend, whatever that is, to really look at that conversation. Because, I think this is like an enthusiasm to kind of be curious. Then to be curious when you feel developing, like what opportunities can we see, like the kitchen for anywhere that can actually build your skills and increase your knowledge. And then that, like when I'm looking for a folio, we're looking at an edited folio. So sometimes people present especially in visualization, you just get these folios of 30 images. And the ones that I would resonate to the most are the ones that maybe have 4 images and a drawing. Yeah. And it could be like a kitchen drawing. I'm like, oh, this person understands composition, they understand lighting, they also understand how something goes together. So you don't need it to be massive, you don't need it to be extensive, and it could all be just as in, obviously a lot of jobs advertise for experience roles, but even when we advertise for experience roles, some of that would make it personal, and that's okay, and shows those interests. Photography, anything that shows sideline interest gives us indication that this person's passionate and interested in lots of other aspects of this discipline. And I was going to sort of add that, understanding how things go together. There's something we have study course, but it's actually how to accurate with the world. And if you walk around, the decanters be there, but you was running get everything things put together by some same person, or there's an eye to it, this design. Because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's there. And just by being beat about or shoving problems, kind of go to chat and tables and have the kind of set out everything, the information that can see would be and can teach you, because you could look at anything and sort of enough that you go, why is that the way it can, and sometimes you might get to understand what atoms do, that these things have been welded this way for a particular reason. Sometimes you might be able to make a joke and go, that just seems against wow, no, it's a completely different thing. But just asking those questions means, comparing what you see and comparing different details that you see around, around the environment. There's just a great particular, so point to that. Don't say that a lot with Parkinson because she hates him. Constantly judging everything. Shouldn't I think of one of those people track parts. All the time, just analyze edits and photographing things. So one of the things we do at the studio is when, like yesterday, we visited a slave suite. So you're visualizing, you've got the architect's drawings, you've been in this world, you've digitally been trying to recreate something. And then once it's built, it's like we went to Convo Terraces, we've worked on the card, the whole studio through, and you're just looking at, that's how they finished that detail, and just photographing and analyzing and photographing and analyzing. Like, how cool is it now that we just have phones that, but when I was at uni, we had film and you had to go develop it. And now my phone, apart from my kids, is filled, my wonderful family is just filled with detail, random detail. Like my kids are like, why have you taken a photograph of the footpath? Like I'm just constantly analyzing every bit.
And that, the other thing is about detailing all of them. That if you design something, you can't want it that it's from the design. When you have something to work, and if you design something and then you do model it, it'll take you might realize it's something you wrote imagination or the sketch doesn't quite work, and then you can down changes and but you can't model it and that's what that's how it's improved so the software and hands.
Definitely both. There's not usually one and the other, because if you can't do it in both, it doesn't. I think that sometimes we do coronate use graduates, then use it's incredible design as a way has actually nice to make in the software year or times that yes, having those both skills is necessary is satisfaction. It can actually work the opposite way too, but some might go straight to that step and not sort of with their imagination kind of all it. But there is this I think part of the part of the real trick that realizing the answers now the balance of that making a sketch becomes known the design development that boundary is since very difficult to learn the kind of thing and apply. That's it.
That's right. Thanks very much. We get to part C, girl, securing employment. Just the next slide, just give the questions on that. And then I'm going to pass it over to Natalie. So we'll go to the second question.
Yep. Hi, my name's Natalie. I'm studying the Advanced Coding Design at the moment. And my question is, do I need a degree in a specific discipline, such as the postgraduate diploma or a master's, or in order to get a job in the field, do I need high degrees of knowledge?
Yes. Yes, you're right. David, if you like to answer that one.
No, it's not necessarily, but it really helps. I think that it make experience and curiosity and self-planning because to hold you back the settles real. That's pretty unusual. Guys, those things has there are people you can't like this education military successfully. But generally speaking from education is nothing. So it depends on how that it depends on your relevance comment. But we think to think on first what we do, so sometimes there are obviously pretty good limitation. Especially when it comes to things like registration and that their apps team said also it's kind of it doesn't mean that it's not hard and just see. But what it actually what it's recommend is that if you're interested in something, do something go out and work and get a part-time job. If you're interested in interior design or teacher, go out and work in feedback and bands before you actually decide you're going to go and do some further education, because it might point you in the right direction again. So that is the sort of experience. So I get to my best running, and then to start working. I'd like to just the bond was nice, even almost good. So by the time I decided in architecture, that supports a couple of years working into it's architecture, didn't finish architecture because I got so mad I didn't have one down that path. But it got to the point where the way my experience, way of what I was starting to get out having for because I've been working with so long, and this is sort of balance. It's the experience always in that it is great, but don't have to cut the experience out of the right there. this range and cities that you around. Knowing is seeing like run it if you don't do architecture and then update a design architecture, about the ranks into associate to principals. You do need to be a registered architect, which would mainly be master's degree in architecture. Interiors is like that, and you need that the context of that to chartered status to move up. So in that way, as to do degree the interiors experience will build. That's just mine.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I've ever looked at some. I mean, our industry is obviously globally. We have people that have worked across a lot of disciplines, a lot of different backgrounds from different parts of the world. But I can't think of anyone that looks at a CV and goes, "Oh wow, look at the level of education." Like, as in, that's not the first thing. You don't go, "They went to this school and this school and this school, and they have all of that." You are looking at that broad range of experience, and working as early as possible. I mean, the chips helped shape my career, and it sounds like we've all gone on similar journeys. It's massive, and so because you just get that version and that experience, something if you love it, then you realize you love it, and then that makes studies so much easier. So much easier because you know the direction. You're like, okay, I love this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever it takes, whatever degrees, whatever higher education I need to get that day.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Well, while you were studying, were there many, were you working part-time at that time while you were studying, like all three of you during that period? I guess, yeah.
And it was tough. It wasn't, I mean, for me personally, it wasn't easy at all, but as in I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah.
I think, especially when you run, like when you're less experienced, when you do better, getting around working and man, you do tons of work, you will see that the areas of course to go to some anyway, it's about has it's about starting the things that you will understand that you're able to, So it's hard time wise. They get through it. That's every get through it. Especially if you start then
Adeline, next questions.
What are the most effective strategies for gaining employment in one field?
And I could pass maybe Costa for now, then pass it on up.
That's one. For us, I think we've touched on it. It's really, I mean, for us, it's less about, how do I phrase it? So, it's really just about immersion and creating so much of what we do. Like when we started the business 15 years ago, it wasn't really an industry. It is now, which is great. There's courses around the world. You can learn this and you can study it. So, but what we look at is just someone that really has that growth mindset and willing to learn the software. Unfortunately for us is a big deal. I say that with a bit more hesitation because I always used to think, and I still do think it's secondary, but when you're running a business and you have certain, standards, you need someone that walks in that understands software. That again, we're not looking for accreditation in that software or formal courses. We're just looking at what can you do in that software? Do you understand it? Can you use it? If you just sat by yourself on YouTube for 100 hours to learn how to do something and then created something yourself, that's more than enough for us. But again, what we're looking for is just that understanding of the design world, like it's coming back to the core principles. So the software is important, but it's secondary. It's really about just understanding that design world and how it works and what your passions are and understanding different photographers and different, knowing a Laudel project or Chris Thompson project and understanding the distinction and understanding the different philosophies. It's just that level of information. So ours is far less about the education. I will look favorably on someone that's probably studied architecture or interior design, but it won't make or break it. Interior design is probably a great one for us. But again, sometimes these things are just, innate passions and understanding, and that's a wonderful thing about our world. You don't have to go on that journey. You can come through it in a roundabout way.
What is your interruption? I got a question here.
Oh, just on that point, how important is culture fit for you? It's really important, whether it's interpersonal culture fit or culture fit in design sensibility. Yeah. So we have values, which sounds really, the other thing to say out loud, but we went and did our values about 5 or so years ago, which are collaboration, knowledge, integrity, and quality. Our performance reviews internally in the studio are done. So we will look at the performance of the person, but we're assessing really against the values. So for us, you need to exhibit those values. We have 3 criteria. So there's rarely, some of the time, most of the time. You need to be in 2 of those most of the time, and in 2 of those some of the time. That's the flaw. So it's really important. And that's a challenge when you're employing people, is to see how they fit with those values. My most favorite is integrity, which is essentially our definition of that, is leaning into the uncomfortable, and being able to lean into the uncomfortable, which is in a design field, you are critiquing what we just said. You critique everything all the time. You're critiquing the junctions of this, the architecture, what were they doing? And then in a design practice, it's really important to be able to put up your hand and in a constructive way, but constructive and respectful way, express your opinion on something. And that's really important. We have been offensive or anything. And that's one of the values that I talk to most about in my team, because sometimes people will hold back. They don't want to offend a colleague. They feel bad. Am I going to add more workload? But this is that pursuit of marginal gains. This is how we get in there. So culture for us is really important. Really good.
It's really quite how I've actually mentioned that. So far, I think that's pretty weird. Especially in top trends, I think it's how they work and they things. And I think I'm going to be fit into that culture fit. Probably our friends' cultures aren't much different. And they probably all sit by and sit back and at least lie at the same things. And we start just think of like what everybody should be in places of people with most places in the world. And I think a lot of when we interview someone, I can say recently that we've been interviewing other companies to help us with some subcontract work that we hard just do ourselves divided, got overloaded. We had 3 firms come to us. One that 100% we know can do the job. They are big. They will do it. The man in the interview just didn't seem like he really wanted to be that big. And there's just a bit but we know for the fact that you do it. And another person was way over the top, but we're a bit unsure if you can maybe do it. And the US hit sort of stopped trying to sell the world and very happy with up, which was fine. And there's sort of one in the middle, and just the balance fell and he understood a bit more values. He got the job to end up getting the smaller ones, the person that was more the top engaged in one of it. And then remember you could do Indian six culture with still that's fine. We really engaged. They're not into it. Rather take risk and someone who was trying to sell themselves as a thing. I think that's important and recently as well. I always see interviews with myself or if you all tried that interesting talk, we'll stay open. There's a keep a job with start to more for self and especially because that person is going to be able to work on projects. They need to connect into sort of recovery. So there's a huge part of the work is navigating into those chicks to the event fields, but it can be particularly tricky in our field because if they're like to deal with a lot of technical endings, they don't need to deal with a lot of Canadian first some things, and so at the same time we need to balance those two things. So BIM manager side, it's a particularly interesting thing. So no one's ever coming to you with how's your day? They can't get it. I've got a problem. I'd say behind my desk is not like I've got to take police and next thing where there's the most traffic at the whole office at the end. This rehearsing day. I'd have my steps to be up there, where the student boys up in the living around seat and do hack with the and no if you're in something will need to this comes on back you first so on. Then
I think on that culture and the interview process, I think a really there's something to consider is when you're in an interview, you're also interviewing her. I would say what your role is in that interview is to understand the culture of that practice. Is it a place? Because sometimes in the design world, like anything, you could be blinded by, the two fabulous, firms that we're sitting together, like, oh my God, their work is incredible. Everything is amazing. Like, this is so good. But they could have a culture of working on weekends, not seeing their family. And if that doesn't align with your personal values, you need to really think about that. And that's one of the things you really need to get out of that interview. Always think about that time and space is also for you to understand that culture and what that studio is like and whether it aligns with your values.
Definitely ask you probably all going to know friends and industry and ask now if you message and stuff, if you've got interviews with some of these firms, you can fast feed. Everyone knows someone like every step. I mean, either always ask what's the culture like, because if I can pay clients the firms who they pretty very well like and I'll be offer me a job, but then I'm speaking to quite a few people like new culture too. It's a big change of people there all the time, and how I like to say no to because of that. I did. So understand culture was super. And it's a big industry, but a small industry in the same time. Like in Cody's, this one instance, like I never met you before, but we've been so like you said, believe you. And then coming then you too.
I've got on the journey read out two questions because they're relatively similar. And I'll pass this on to Callum, I think, of Estonia.
All right, so my name is Mohammed. I am in the materials I student. I'm previously studying building design. For a short period of time, I worked for a residential renovation company as a labourer. And I'm currently with some freelance graphic design team. My questions to you are, where are our jobs in your field advertised? And where can you find out about employment options that are not advertised? Okay, so firstly, probably each dollar of the biggest values as most of your local utilities, because it's not the economists they want to stack it ourselves from. Shortlist, there's a real go through criminals. And then the last 6 jobs I've got in the suite, but for this store, it's going in. Might be a long week, that's just kind of ways. That may be a little bit more for the job summer. The graduate jobs, we will always a little bit. So where it's managed day at least in the 20 to 50 week gunk. But we do, it's not like we just put them file together. There are times we need people. So we will go through those. Contacting people on LinkedIn as in passive classic period. You're not pestering me, they're going to stuff. But you just, if you consider the people, so figure out use the kind of people be about the studio principles, which is the inquiry. That's always done a good talk to as well. They'll keep you in mind. That's, I would, if I'm going to send a resume into a firm, the whole like just like, hey, I'll be then following I think the message to just saying, got it, it puts your hand up the other thing then, because the statements are plans with the best to it. You will sometimes advertising website as well. We use it with advertising website, probably with land
sort of previous times. So I know we used Bespoke was our recruitment agency. Probably all heard of that. That's probably based on our industry. Yeah, which one to start this? Yeah, I've actually worked 2 jobs through them. I found them fantastic. Yeah, pretty good time.
And we've also got Swinburne, like by Sally, you worked with Bespoke too, which some of you may have met as well. So, get you guys in contact with her too.
Yeah, having worked in this in the Mingos and creeks there, we shop with your jobs. It makes them working with something like a smoking show. It's them on us. No, it did find quite good. So probably that's what is the first thing, but then also, especially for new roles, to probably do that tinier photos. So getting resume, getting finding contacts, that would be your best way to start there. Also, a lot of our senior design teams that will go to the things like that architectural slides, the bit of that, but the presentations, things are always, docs are always represented there. Then so sort of students go to those really big contacts for people. That's the only way it's been like in detail because we can't accept that because you're not going to get it. Well, get that. Yeah. Getting involved with is project that you might have, but they might have your friends project files and and then you get shows for you in kitchen and you just get out there as tight and keep prepping to the steel. Started the ample experience, they really surprised with particularly they have no chin. But was up. And also plumbing, I have found like Talfoy, which is I look at all the resumes as well. Like it's interesting. Like there's so much fun usually. It isn't just in the all businesses. You look at the resumes, but apply again. So don't apply once and be like, oh wow, I didn't get the job or they never came to me. I've seen progression. Like we're just about to hire someone that I've seen that they've essentially sent their resume over a 5-year or 3-year period. So it was interesting because you search their name and then it comes up and then you see the evolution of their work and you're like, this person's quite persistent. So you look at them more favorably. You're like, oh, wow, this person really wants to work here and they've been really working on their skills. A lot of people that we've actually employed, I would say, send through their application multiple times. Sometimes that second or third time, you're like, okay, I think I need to look at this. Again, you need to type it properly. You want to do it within a week or something. And it's a bigger journey. And applying, don't wait for the app. In the graduate, I think, role or student role, you just apply because there won't be an analytical conversation. We recently employed someone that recently graduated, couldn't find a job, was a friend of a friend. They said, can you speak to her? I spoke to her, I provided some guidance to her, Bespoke and things like that. 6 months later, we're sitting around in the leadership team, they're saying, wouldn't it be fantastic to have a student here to be able to do all these things? I was like, oh, Zoe, I'll contact Zoe, and she's been there and she's been fantastic. Like she's been great. So she's gone from 1 day a week to 3 days a week. And I think in 6 months, she'll be there full time. So it's just all good. Yeah.
Sort of good, yeah. We'll pass on to the next question, things to know. Feel free to go ahead.
Hi, I'm Australian. Thank you for coming. I'm finishing up my last few weeks of my honours here for interior architecture. So this is very great to hear all this done. So I'm just wondering, can you suggest some ways that we can gain necessary experience through entities roles? I know you've sort of touched on it a bit, making span.
Bang experience. And whenever we come to
There is a lot that's part as well we can move on to, but yeah, I know that it's a question a lot of our students have come across as well. We've spoken in relation to how to gain that extra experience, especially after just graduating to it.
yeah, like the boys trying to get involved in jobs quickly, like or even if you know someone so you and it feels already, it's that condition you're doing, or can I help you that a little bit with what you're doing? Just sort of be proactive about looking for I think actually be able to find what an opportunity actually is. I think I probably managed to start getting real jobs after doing, work code or trains, got doing stuff for fun, and then graduating the people and all that stuff. I think actually I got my first job with a recruiter based on a folio of all projects that I just done myself. No, I don't wasn't showing any activities like that. And that was what was interesting to them. So that, stuff I was paid hardly people that, but we could still have that, and that really kind of, so it's not necessarily that happens straight away. Just being open-minded about what an opportunity is. I think that is work that is characteristics are the concept design in this area. So it shows that you constantly working, trying to get things. They're not real jobs in a way, but it's like you're trying to brief yourself and here's something. So a bit more stuff to buy. So I certainly think that your colleague Zoe, there's not necessarily a job there to be had all of a sudden, but you never know. If you've gotten yourself out there, you talk to what is, talk to the enthusiasm. When someone does have that job, maybe they'll think you could. And that's that actually happens really in tied to someone's got, I've got this thing, I've got this problem. If you can't get there, you want to be a person that person that you might care or one he became wouldn't really.
We might actually go over a couple of these ones together. I think one of the really common popular questions we have from our students is how can they optimize portfolio content? So if you have any suggestions in relation to things they can optimize add to their portfolio, or maybe they can streamline as well.
Sure. I guess I think you don't want to stay too much stuff that you more focus. You want to stay able to stuff. Now, that being said, you don't want to have a bottom size for 3 jobs. So I another portfolio of 10 or 12 things, and then depending on the job or the person that I showed in myself to or not, I might pick 4 of those things and just develop on what. So I think I sort of spent once even the other day, but we would used to sort of have a nice little neat kind of job that shows the particular thing or range of things, might be something to do with detailing or something to be engineering or application, might be something to design. But it's just there's this particular succinct, about 4 pictures, not too many words, it's something that explains a particular skill or something that you can bring into the particular job. And then you can actually compose those elements. Those different. I understand how your mind is huge. And that's not to say it's a portfolio, but in the interview, understand happening with having knowledge of some people working towards, and definitely not that you need to act like saying good but on about it, but just knowing what that is. I always think of what all those things can be. Bosses couldn't be that different in the time of work that we do. So you will be showing the same types of things there in the boss of the juror meeting class dates from them out to be towards material aisle. So understand too, it's not just you're just not throwing stuff out there hoping that it'll work that company. No, make it work for them and make them up in the teeth. Let's apply them. Social principal a couple weeks ago, and he did a presentation about his work, and all the English is starting to like, oh, I understand why you were, because all the work done was previous practice and very similar to our stuff. So, well, the companies are looking for people that should get hold. That's why
Personalization, I think, is the key takeaway. I mean, when we see resumes, the cover letter is actually incredibly powerful. Don't make it generic. Don't go, dear hiring manager. Dear, we get Gabriel on this team. What is wonderful about the moment we are now, there's so many tools, there's AI, this, I'm still surprised that we get these generic letters, because all it would take won't be literally more than 10 minutes worth of effort. It can use some AI tools to somehow make it more personalized. And then if you actually spend some time, you could make it even more personalized and reference a project, reference something that inspires you from that practice. I think that goes a long way. I look at the cover letter and read it like you look at the following, you're like, oh, this is great. And then you go to the cover letter, and if it's generic, it's almost like a bit like, that's a shame. So I know it takes more effort, but it's worth it. Yeah. And it'll help you stand out. Yeah. Stress it to someone specific in the studio, reference some of their work that inspires you. And not only that, maybe even reference why. Like, don't just go, I love this thing, I love this interior team. Try and articulate what it is that drew them to that project or that practice, or you saw them speak, or you saw something, wherever it is, to really personalize it.
Yeah. I also like the idea that I think all of you have kind of agreed on as well about, it doesn't always have to be these big projects. It can be smaller things they've been working on as well. So don't be not afraid to add those things to your portfolio. It is also showing additional skills as well. So yeah, I think that's really important too.
He's got a question. In terms of the portfolio, with many stages, and what do you think should we really include the beginning of a very quick stages conceptual work, which is not even nothing close to the accuracy of AutoCAD or Revit, or possibly not a raw scale. But are you appreciating with those into it to show the design development stage?
100%. I don't want to say that a Revit family city, it's like, I don't think made that. But if I can see the process of it, I had an employer once, he commented on the particular work that I showed the job, which was a project from start to finish, which was conceptualization, and had some documentation, and that's rendering, and then had a picture of the rendering next to the actual thing and was built. Yeah. And that was really that seemed to be really successful process. Yeah, and so powerful. It shows that you understand impacting stuff together. That work out a process where
and almost like the different media sets, like, having something that's hand sketch versus computer generated and photographic, like all of that's also very powerful, rather than everything being, CAD or just rendering or something, just showing that it occurs. Yeah. And it's not something that, that necessarily has to be a good barrier to create something like that. I had one of my former colleagues at CAR, actually. I was talking to the former director, and he said he liked his other vote on the job because, he was really impressed in his story because he showed the created the design and construction of a length it didn't make, and it just, something just was super was a wham. And it was that he showed the process of thinking about it, iterating it, you get the file put up, and then he also talked passionately about why he did this. He was in. So, it's not as though you have to necessarily have a job or just not create that for you to that didn't work. And no, it worked for us. It worked straight away.
It's out,
Everyone designed it.
You'll get jobs. I wish I had. Is it kind of like we just do warranties every week, and we find out someone else been posted every week and just show what the ashes are of our sign. Everyone's got the ashes, and it's incredible. But here's people making it. I think that's just comparing the issue we've got the government skills that maybe not think really that helps them know figure it out why they are built. It does. So, probably it's just thousands. It's just things. I think we've all got that in us a bit to. I think it continually get and you afraid to share it. Yeah. So if you were to design chat and that's something you could do with that. Yes, you don't have my job at the moment to show that portfolio. If you've got time to design chat, and you can draw it up and model it, everything like that, and that could be from the portfolio as well. So.
Thank you for answering my question. I bet everyone would be like,
No, thank you.
let's go with
I just have to get a quick one from
Hi, I'm Nina. I'm also finishing my honours year in interior architecture. Just a thought that popped into my head is I actually work in marketing, and our graphic designer has a website where it's a her folio essentially. And I just wanted to ask, I guess, in your opinions on the difference between providing a website for someone to navigate all your work, if that's all like different, maybe it's a bit of graphic design, maybe it's a bit of architecture or interior design versus the hard copy that lands on your desk.
Swinburne, yeah. It depends on the audience. Yeah. Like I always preferred just that in a way like papers be very rare, and that's that's something I like because there was just outdoors like that, I suppose. But if you want to show major your actually the user experience or something like that, and his website can demonstrate that things that's fine. It's really about the best that you're at. So cares probably the rest about the play match. But the format's probably secondary. So that's what you're trying to achieve. And if that website's not going to make you stand out, or some of the things that it's not going to communicate. I think I don't know if I already said this, but having when you've got to be able to answer the question, what am I bringing to the person that the lines and he's interviewing me, basically what am I bringing to the brand and that's all. So if it's they the skills that the web platform, that's right, but it's like you've got to be able to answer that question. It does what can I bring, and does that what I'm saying communicate what I should bring is what makes me special.
It's the content, I think, both of the media, the tools. Yeah, I wouldn't get too preoccupied in the median. One person we employed, which is kind of sounds funny considering what we do, but Jojo submitted a printed book, which was beautifully designed. I literally went, oh my gosh, this is a person that understands graphics and composition before even looking at the work. The work actually wasn't that good. So he was a graduate. And it was, and the work wasn't technically great, but what I could see was someone that had spent time looking at publication, looking at layouts, understanding graphics. And I'm like, okay, this is someone that has an interest in design and how things come together, which then allowed me to look at it. And also out of all the resumes we get, it was the only one I've ever received that's been printed as a book. Again, I'm not saying that's the answer, but it does, it's really about the content, and is what you're trying to express assisting that. You could get really caught up in. I think my least favorite version of the folio are the 3 website template ones. The Wizards or something like the ones I don't think I've ever employed anyone that's just one of those. There's advertising on it, and I'm clicking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just please just put a PDF together. Like the nice clean font that makes it a lot easier.
Sounds that because if you think about what we actually do this week, put stuff on sheets, my dashboard, and create presentation documents where everything's guys. Chris, that book is telling us that you can do that as well. A website, and I never do it with project colleague or something. It's still thing. Not saying it's someone that's not saying it at all, but at least the book shows but it works. What is tailoring job?
It's a good point, actually. So you can see layout, how they set things up in a media from a very does really good point too. We'll get to part D. We've got one question for this part. It's three that I will stick to one. And Mohammed, you want to read out that question? First one.
What is the structure of your workplace and particular work?
Now, I'll just mention too, I know that Costa, you mentioned a little bit about it early on, so I might actually pass this to Helen specifically.
When you say structure, what do you mean the structure of?
In the sense of, I guess, who do you liaise with as part of your role? Like, would you be liaising with interior designers?
Yeah. So I sit within sort of the same team practice. We have 4 partners. We've got John, founder, and 5 partners. John, like founder, and 4 partners. We've got 2 offices for the travel in the city. And below that, we'll have principals, associate principals, addings. I never get into that is project leads, graduates. So I sort of sit in the fire section that and associate principals sort of solve it up. And I, being the design typology part of that is binding to liaise with the design team, it's recruiting. So essentially, like I said, this is the press. So a BIM manager is a very difficult job. It's your center, pretty much everything that kind of happens. So my day-to-day would be deal with issues with Revit that are also not refining this team come to me because you're going to buy $200,000 worth of lost tomorrow. Then next day I'm presenting to the partners that prefers the workflows technologies that we should use should that. Then I'm showing specifically about technology vendors or new software. So we structured sort of in the middle, talking to everyone. The main role of the BIM manager is to create the workflows within the office and make the office special as possible. Making sure everyone's doing their work best way they possibly can, trying to make the roadblocks to all work because technology creates roadblocks as well. So I need to be making sure that like simple along creating with my team, creating workflows with like to work well, then also putting out fights as when issues with the office. It's a scary, very important felt on the hardest job in the world to explain. So when you're trying to explain that to someone first, and I say, "What are you working on at the moment?" You said everything. I get that question. Which way come to say it's project I'm working on every time. Yeah, you are. It's really also very. So that I have to then sing as a positive for Afghan hours of networks. But then deliberating they have without very good host would be around enough fires to correct the issues that happen. I think graduate whole is a bit more stable focus. The practitioners never ran architecture, but in the pattern of role in close queue, goals to I need to start work as well, but then this we work on my own now is sort of doing that habit. So I'm not every project I'm not efficient down hours do project resources as well. You're not efficient on every project for hours, you project facility tense in around definitely. Workflows to make that happen. My team, we meet once a week, please. So we do a bit of a triage. What's the most context anything it's with when it comes to we spread it to 2 sides, it's the office workflow, things that we should be improving. What's our best goals by the end of the year? We want the best system to work better. But then also we triage those goals that this one's having they should lose stars. This level's to constantly going down, guys. When it does, we start sort of lights and workflows with this the big goals we need to hit, but was getting that idiot. You were stressed about, of course, I think that's made me sit down a little bit. If I use time to say, shoes, but the every day, isn't on, yeah, in fact, that's probably not. It was some style again, so I was.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. I think that removing roadblocks can be applied to a whole heap of different layers of the business, but I think that's, to me, that's the most exciting aspect of it. And then they're analyzing and working out how can this be done better, implementing processes. Yeah, so we, as a company, we shift the sheet and work more on the multi-based space. So we've only done shared technology restored in the parks, and they usually do like seaside. So it's about system, how can we see up this way the sun's sort of the towers we've been adding. So to this took us probably 3 or 4 months to get something that was working well, and then a year later, I was still making that tweaks to it. So I could very in process that he makes the workflow compass. Yeah, so we still really have those things staying on us.
That's really good. Yeah, thank you very much. The last part we have is part A, is the career and professional development. I'm going to go down a couple of questions and I'll pass it on to Amy. It'll be the third clip.
Hi there, my name's Amy. I'm currently a student in the Advanced Diploma of Interior Design. So my question for you guys is, are there professional associations that I could join?
So, yeah, and maybe just a quick thought, maybe 1 or 2 associations you want to recommend.
I've done this issue too.
Yep, it's the DIA.
And so if you do something to me, kid, who I'm going to take on the track to all the AI against and side technology side. That's the interest in people want to have. So I'm at the it's not necessarily need to join an association, but I've had builds exploring contests, computers, to meaningful accepts up. Well, I can try out that no BIM is the number. It's a free James Bell remote. If that's is it happy it's the trip. Yes. Melvin's if you're interested in the RMIT chat every few months, they'll have it's a free night. There'll end up being about 3 or 4 different presentations from different firms. It's not always actually just BIM stuff, so it's difficult the design lead. I think was definitely number 1 attended so conference like this in Australia, story to get to do. And it's also been a copy, sorry, Jim, to was studying. Obviously, great stuff in soil service then. And it's set up by a bunch of one interviews being about what about as well as actually trilogy. But it's they went in to being really was hobbies, there's a most active amount now. He's many years, different programs. Yeah, so it's not just to do what lives, human architects, tears on, so we can call that as well. So, yeah, that's great work, there's a sheet, yeah.
And that also leads to the next one as well. So, accustomed to as well, if you want to respond to this to get working opportunities. So, you're mentioning those areas, which is really good. If there's any other network opportunities you would recommend as well for our students possibly attending, or even maybe an area where it's got sessions or things that are happening in the industry that they can possibly attend. We got like the DIA, for example, how that area with upcoming events, so things like that. Yeah,
in any events would be great to attend. Actually, especially if you're interested in making your name as that. I remember we actually did a team conference. They this in CDV, and I make a person to be this person wanted a job. Turned out that she really had a job, but like in your head, they don't always talk right. He's going to be based to be English, and that doesn't just know that. like in the foyer beforehand. Kind of, yeah.
So, yeah, thank you very much. And then we've got Sienna, if you want to read just the last question as well. No.
And I'm currently looking about the actual material architecture. Was it the last one, Melon?
Yep, thanks.
Are there any publications shared to magazines? These are as well as to BIM, which I should be reading.
So you say we're not in the best one is a city and think that's good for movie capital balloons. That's and to why I be that's called best upset news interaction. Sure, being this a website that's would have lots of talks from different people around the world on the stage and like on YouTube series from different people as well. That was really good. There's a yes, like everything else in the world, there's been bloggers. Funny they were so come. Yeah. We're incredible. But AEC I always find is probably the most up to date and stuff and BIM.
Just very good. Any others at all?
No, not done.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Yep, we had a.
I think it's also good to look at, I know the question specific to BIM, but I know even when we interview candidates, and I'll actually always ask them, what do you read? What do you look at? And most people say work from other visualization studios, which unfortunately is not the answer I'm looking for. So I'm looking them to say, up daily or the local project, or like just I want to see, or some obscure photographer or something I want to see in the design field outside of their specialty. What are they looking at? I think that's really good. I'm not saying to ignore the specialty. That's almost the obvious answer. So you need to go, yeah, of course I go with this. This is I love this area and I love BIM, and that's great. But I also go with this.
Thanks very much for coming along today. Your insights have been really great. I'm sure our students also really appreciated that as well. I do just want to take a moment, maybe if there's any other questions from our students or our audience as well. You have any questions, Carl? Yep.
So I have one, but it's maybe more BIM process related, but it's like general advice. So I was wondering, within your studios, whether there is like a different workflow or sort of different BIM capabilities that you utilize for more like residential projects versus larger commercial projects, and what value differences like is.
That's my just kind of being quick. Yeah, very. BIM workflows, I'd say most of the work are like that. There's a contract, this usually a contractual scope. Okay, so BIM in a way that it'll go, so okay that it's a big project. Now BIM is a process that's applied to the project using BIM contracts. That usually the bigger projects. And so if it's a BIM project, we call it an office or high sort of business usual projects. Yeah, our servicing that is fresh dumps and things like that. That big, got a $6 million research building going in how to do it. That bit's very high level. And those are the projects that you have triggered by the client, stakeholders, they want much higher than the BIM applied Cisco jobs to make the risks because it is so extensive. We're not going to be able to add $5 million house apply BIM to that because it's just the reward out of it. It's just so much less go. Using BIM, I know in the past, you might be able to use class action and understand where all our duct workers do the building. You might find something that studying a couple of $1 million within that we're going to design, unless this isn't working. all your signals just don't work. On point up, I find five developers saving to find the house. It's just, it's not really the thing that I girls are going to tell. So it is a very different workflow, which is really side of it, compared to the size of projects. So it doesn't mean they can't apply some of the same principle as like more using Revit. They should always be kind of the same. So they might have that contract scope to go as high as they need. And that's the projects going. We were still wanting guys with certain LEDs, LED levels. I did 100 to 300, so the commodity billions. We will still do the same LED 300 models for whatever projects. So ours model is the same, but the granular LEDs how often go into the fitting and art. We're being asked with any workflows changes by the size of the projects.
Yeah, so at the end of the then
You always try and follow the same standards, the modeling, and the degrees, all the practice, because the novel is lucky to see the defense did say. So like it's just depends on what. But when you back at big triples, you can use what counts and what doesn't cause your project. And that's the fact. If I just trust since if you're going to the higher level with super projects, you're benefiting yourself when you with gold team that the consultants teams. Taking a step the benefit. So exactly. Yeah. It's such an idea about it. And it's the good model is always good. Good time. It's good. Ever question in the role? What software do you guys use? Are there any new upcoming software that you guys are looking into to use potentially in the future, or in the industry, any upcoming softwares? Even with AI, we do a lot. We've integrated AI workflows a lot into what we do. Something that I think I was so excited when all the AI stuff happened, because I used to study it at university, so jumped up to it really early, really educated the team to not be scared of it and to really embrace it. Software's a hard one. I find it like we use 3D Studio Max. Back when I was on the tools, I never did. I hated the program. It's really clunky, but this is where industry standards come in. And when you want to grow the practice and employ people, that's a software they know. It's really powerful, but it's really just, I use software that is so much easier to use. But unfortunately, this is sometimes where the ones that are essentially I would describe as better are just not as popular. So you're sort of forced to use that. So I've used a lot of different software throughout my career for that. We used to inspect the works of Spoke to Rhino in university, Cinema 4D. Now we use Max. That's the standard. But AI is fantastic in that my theory at the moment is that we could do what we do now using an AI workflow. It wouldn't be faster. It would take the same amount of time, but to get exactly the same results, if you have a result that's sitting here, you could do it in a parallel way using a whole other set of tools and just looking at a different workflow. So it is constantly evolving, and the AI stuff is almost daily. And now the integration to software, I know Revit's going into, like AI is becoming massive in that, which is fantastic. Considering, the programs can help us connect things and see things and allow us to view things from different perspectives. It's good. It makes it a lot more powerful. Yeah. There's possibly a trend leaning towards customer so building your own software, building your own data agent at the moment. So it's not so much software platform. So it would be how to leverage the institutes of web platforms we have been. There's some really interesting stuff at the Build conference again on last Rusty. About curated databases large language, I would say, so in ChatGPT has this left of large language model, which is you can actually you customize your own language read it. Put all of the directly that to use word into a large language model, and then that AI would then be like kind of like an AI version itself. So if you are faster, that's right. And but where I say, then I, so that's probably the trend. Also, that involves specific software platforms and is probably the next level is kind of like a build your own sort of thing, not necessarily coding, but trying to figure out what you're trying to achieve, and then realizing, and you don't need to necessarily go out and find this piece of software that's been written for you. You can actually fail there, but maybe use AI in some way to actually achieve that workflow you on, or even there has a way that suits himself. Yeah. So that's the edge. That's what's where it's not going to take out jobs. Yes. He can actually launch using AI as tools to build up new sorts of residues. Yeah.
Streamline our process.
It's
really good. Any last questions? All right, great. So our next upcoming event will be the Tuesday, the 18th of November, which will be the one that's held at the Thomas, where our guests here today will do a 30-minute presentation on a couple of different topics. But yeah, that'll be the next upcoming event. And we'll give you information for that as well. We'll have quite a few students from a whole range of backgrounds as well on that night too. So it'll be a really exciting event as well. But I just want to take the time to thank our guests. So thank you very much. And these was as well. We have about, I think maybe about 15 minutes or so left.
Well, you can take into picture in Sean. If you guys don't mind, we should want to stay back a little bit. May update a photo of everybody. Helpful when I did that.
Please do take our times. I'm good. Or around the safety.
I'm gonna hit one with three of you. We go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I do another one. If you guys just want to, actually, whoever will go behind will be better. So would you guys want to
Yeah, we like to go.
Students, would you like to go behind the beams? And then we offer the easier that you opportunity of make a role. It's a dead body, the range 2030.
Yes, it's next.
And that's what the home page take out. Okay, here we go.
I'll go at the back. No, go to the front.
Please. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Or do you want to know 1, 2, 3? The long one. 1, 2, 3. I got this one in here. Sorry. Okay. One, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I have to do that. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. First there. Can everybody just warm a little bit? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
I do want to
Thank you.
excuse me, guys. So you go from a bachelor.
Yeah.
It's not much, but she's studying that thing. It's very words. But then you want to do okay, so that's the connection.
Yeah, it's just it's probably hard to recognize.
As well. But yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, the next
Wonderful that you guys are here, but I was just wondering. It's one of the next question about that. I just figured out that start
No, I understand it.
yeah.
Once again, here there is a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The studies go. This time of year,
It's not. It's constructive.
That's what it is. Just one in at the moment.
A combination.
The right of just let us know what one obviously.
Breakfast is set. It's the head.
So like, but you can see
I do
how
find it.
because now it's just on that final portion. Here's my great actually getting it out. And
Do you feel free to ask as well? Yeah. Grab those with some adults.
Not yet.
Not yet, but I can see.
Yeah, they're right there.
There's also a lot of the
Yeah, definitely.
to make the channel like a pretty guest something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You starting to see the look.
Yeah, this was great actually. I definitely feeling a little bit like with that movie, but it was like this to go through, I guess. Yeah,
It's just quite like sticks and things. It reminds you.
yeah.
And I did essentially get it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how to jump that way. And then it's also getting a lot of that because it's
Paris.
the problem is for you guys.
That's exactly my school. I think internship works is very
Section, yeah.
yeah.
Stuff with the
Email.
Yeah.
That's next year's my on that I can see like yes. Oh, I utilize the get your position with if I'm not moving. Yeah, that's
It sounded a little bit
yeah, I said to
Use the street word. No, we that's to do that. And that's what they'll get it. And the get so it's a little bit of a round I listen. Oh, so that is the difficult one because I can canvas in particular. Yeah, like just less. I was like, so it's not silly. And now it's off the one here. This spell. So I remember the next doing my fault. Wait, other comments. So you know, it's the first maybe they fall into flash. And I was saying to speak to them. Yes, yeah, it's like people with the force and style. They use that side, that question. Like, yeah, working is twice a day. The G quest for strong, but they
it's really managing in white for
did we so but this was very instruction for I'm to get very into.
Yeah. Thanks so much again. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Yeah, you too. Sure. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Colin. Thanks very much.
what is it?